What up, fitness and fight fans? Welcome back. All new edition of FSP Overtime, spin-off show from Fight Strength Podcast. As always, I am Jason Burgos, hanging in here, doing the point guard thing for the one and only man that is my co-host, compadre of podcasting, the fitness, fight, and conditioning guru of American Top Team, Phil Daru. Phil, what is going on?
I'm doing good, man. But you're not the point. You're not the point today. You are the head coach. You're the owner of this one. This is all you. I'm just going to sit back. I'm gonna give my advice. I'm gonna give my 2 cents. But this is your field, man. I'm just stepping into your world right now. I'm just gonna give you what I think is going on, and maybe you can enlighten me on these certain situations that we have for these topics that we're going to talk about.
I think we should do it like, like a dynamic duo, like you can be Kobe, I'll be Shaq, or Lambie, or you be Isaiah.
Listen, you're not going to be Shaq, though, because you're not 4'2". You can't be Shaq, but I understand what you Baby Shaq, all right. Perfect, man.
All right, so you know how we do. If you listen to the show before, FSP Overtime, it's pretty much talking about the MMA news of the day, the recent stuff, the recent stories. Phil gives a knowledge on it. I give some opinions and thoughts on all the stuff going around. Now, the first point we want to talk about is no shocker, really. I think pretty much everybody figured this was coming, but George St. Pierre does not look like he's too interested in coming back and fighting at 185. Now, for those that may have missed the news, I mean, maybe 3-4 days ago, I think right before UFC 218, Dana White said that George St. Pierre has colitis, which is a inflammation in the intestine, I believe, which is not good. I can't imagine for any high-level athlete. But now, in a recent interview on TSN, George St. Pierre made the comments of, "We'll talk about it, but I'm not sure if I compete. I'm not sure if I compete, I will go back to 185. I don't think so." And then he also said, "Of course, in terms of weight, if I want to go back to compete at 185, I will. Obviously, eating like I did what I did. I learned from my mistakes. I don't think it's a good thing to do. Force myself to eat to gain muscle mass. I've always been against performance-enhancing drugs, and I did it the natural way. There is no easy way. I did the hard way, and it was to gain weight and to maintain my muscle mass, and it was very hard, and it was not healthy." I mean, this sounds like a guy that he's not fighting at 185 ever again. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe down the line, in a couple of years, if he's still in the sport. But he is a natural welterweight in general. I think he walks around, 185, 190?
Probably, yeah.
That's the most. So, yeah, I mean, he's a natural 170. I honestly like the fact that he didn't really cut a lot of weight. Obviously, it worked out for him. He got the knockout, right? He knocked him out and then choked him out. So, I mean, it worked out for him from a performance standpoint. So I think that this is something that may arise down the line, especially when he gets a little bit older. It gets a lot harder to cut weight. But if he can do it the right way, and if he can stay within that weight range of 185, the cut won't be as bad, and he can make 170 for the rest of his career.
I mean, I think we saw a clear sign that 185 wasn't for him in that second round in the Bisping fight. I had never seen George St. Pierre look that tired, that early. Maybe like in the 5th rounds of some of these long fights he's had against the Nick Diaz and the Jake Shields, like long, arduous fights, fine. But in the second round, he looked tired. Obviously, of course, he came back and had a second win in the 3rd round and finished Michael Bisping. But I think that was an early sign. Like, yep, the added weight, not probably for him. It's not really working out for him and his style. And again, like the funny thing about it is Dana White, in all his bluster and tough talk, as he always does, he talks to the media before last week's pay-per-view, talking about, acting all tough, all mad, like, "Oh, well, George, if he doesn't want to fight, I don't know, I think he needs to fight there. It is what it is. You got to get it done. We agreed when he came back he was going to have a title defense, blah, 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 blah." I mean, the guy doesn't want to fight. He's not going to do it. But this is all your fault. This is you and the UFC's fault. You wanted the money fight. You didn't want to force Michael Bisping to go fight the people he needed to fight in his division. And now this is what you're left with. And it's hilarious that, and we're going to talk about a little bit later, Robert Whittaker may have a new opponent, and that might be, we're not even sure if it's going to be an interim title fight. Like, the fact that they're going to have the interim title defended like it's a regular freaking title is so stupid, and it's their own fault. Like, when do they actually take some blame? It's their fault.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. The UFC is it's all about entertainment at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I honestly don't really care, man. I think Whittaker is the true champion, to be honest, in that weight class. And he should be rightfully the champion. There shouldn't be anything as far as an interim title. He should be the champion.
Yep.
And, if he beats Rockhold, that's even better, which I do think he has the capabilities to do so.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of got to let it go, man. GSP's going to go back to 170. Maybe he'll fight for the title there. And then from there, we'll just have that 185 with Whittaker or Rockhold and either GSP or Tyron Woodley, So, and that's a good fight too, Tyron versus GSP. That's another money fight that would definitely work out well. I think we'll come out on top on that one as well. So it's good, American Top Team will still be champions and still have the belt, but from a perspective of just getting things in order from the UFC, I think that they need to stop worrying about defending a title that's really not even really his at this point. He doesn't want to fight at 185, so don't let him, or if he, obviously you're going to make somebody, if you're trying to make somebody, you should have made Conor McGregor defend his title way back.
Exactly.
It is what it is. You can't make one fighter do something and not the other, and they're both making good money for the organization. So it has nothing to do with that. And GSP is ultimately a I don't want to say a bigger name because Conor's a humongous name now, but he has done more longevity for the sport as far as from the beginning. He's been helping the sport, and he's a legend right now, where Conor's still making his way into legendary status. So give the guy a break, let him do what he wants to do, and let him get a title shot at 170.
It's a kind of more frustrating, at least as a fan, because I would like to see GSP defend that 185 just to prove again his legendary status. Like, boom, we got the title and defended it once. Is that if there is very few matchups for him on a size level, like not on a skill, but a size level, Robert Whittaker is the next other one in the division. Like, he's not going to be able to fight Yoel Romero, Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold. Robert Whittaker was at 170 one time. He's on the smaller side for 185. Like, the guy, he's almost like Frankie Edgar-esque. He's not that small for his division, but he's on the small side, and he uses that speed advantage he does have because he's slightly small. He's a tweener. He could probably really be like a 180-pound champion if they had that. And then this is the matchup where at least, okay, there's a size advantage, so this isn't a crazy big guy. Maybe he uses wrestling. Like, this is a fight he could maybe win. And the fact that, that shows you how smart he is. He knows it's a tough fight. The guy's fast, he's strong, he's dangerous. He probably doesn't like the matchup, so that's why he doesn't want to do it. But yeah, like as you said perfectly, like, you should have did this to Conor. How you want to force GSP to do this is ridiculous, but that's really the guy that should have been forced to do something. But it is, it's just a silly situation that they put themselves in, caring about money first. They're devaluing their own titles. They're going to have an interim title defended, and it's a joke. Moving on from that to a fight that, it's a story closely tied to you because it's with a fighter you are good, close friends with and somebody you train. This ongoing saga of Alvarez, Poirier 2, will it happen? Will they, won't they? For all indications, Dustin Poirier is dying. He's been dying for this fight even after the first fight, dying for this fight. And Eddie Alvarez seems to be the complete opposite and not at all interested. You are close to the situation. What are your thoughts on this fight? Like it almost seems like, I don't want to say anything bad about Eddie Alvarez, but he seems like he's avoiding it. He's ducking it.
Yeah, man, I feel like he's definitely ducking the fight, and the point of the matter is that Dustin isn't a talker. He's not going to go on social media. He's not going to rant and rave about, how Eddie's ducking him and how he feels like he should get the shot or how he should get a shot back at him. But it's getting to a point where he feels like he has to because nobody's really listening, or at least nobody's listening from the UFC. Everybody on Twitter, everybody on social media has been retweeting, talking about how Dustin should be getting this fight against Eddie again, and get his rematch that he rightfully earned, beating Pettis and then pretty much in a obviously dominating fashion. And that's one of the most exciting fights to make.
Yeah.
And they put up a post earlier about the toughest guys in the UFC or whatever, and Dustin wasn't even on there. They had Barbosa on there. They had
wow.
They had Khabib on there. They had Nate Diaz, and they had Eddie. And I'm like, I'm sitting there, and he retweeted it too. So he was just laughing, and But the fact of the matter is that give this man his credit where the credit's due. He's been in Zuffa for over 20 fights. So if you cannot give him some type of recognition, can't give him what he wants, and give him some recognition to actually get a chance at that title, or just defend what he wants to do. He wants to fight Eddie. He wants to get that that whatever bullshit call, erased. So he wants that fight, and it looks like Eddie don't want it, man. And it's kind of disheartening. It's frustrating in a sense, because that it's the fight to make, and the guy that's that we're actually gunning for, and I don't want to say we're gunning for him, but at the end of the day, we should have beat him, and we actually did beat him, but from the referee standpoint, we got a bad call in my opinion, my personal opinion, and I'm emotionally invested in the situation because that's one of my guys. But I honestly, even from a fan standpoint, everybody wants to see this fight. Who doesn't want to see this fight? You know what I mean? So we've been training all along. Dustin right now feels the best he's ever been. He said he can go into camp right now. So and we're on the out of camp program. So I'm just waiting to see when we get the call, because honestly, it'll be like, an early Christmas for me if I hear that we get Eddie sometime in the near future. But I don't think it's going to happen, because I don't think Eddie's really down to fight Dustin again and really get that work.
And what's surprising about, for all intents and purposes, it feels like Khabib, because we pretty much have to get to the point Conor's not coming back. Let's just assume he's not. So Khabib and Barboza, it seems like that could be a title eliminator at this point, because Khabib still hasn't lost yet. Barboza has been on a roll. So, hey, if that's a title eliminator, fine. Now, Khabib could, as we know, if he wins, he could get injured. That's why it seems to make so much sense to make this fight, again, one, just because it was such a good fight, who wouldn't want to see it? As you said, it was a great fight. Two, these guys are their stock rose again, because Poirier has been utterly fantastic since he's been at 55. It maybe have been the division he should have always been in. He's been so good. So he's on fire. He's right there for a title shot. And Eddie Alvarez gets this big win after we were all doubting him, after we all were starting to wonder about him after the Conor loss, and then he probably should have lost to Dustin. All these social performances. He comes out and beats Justin Gaethje. Everybody's loving him, and he not even just beats him in the decision, finishes this guy, this monster, this zombie that doesn't seem impossible to finish. He goes in there and finishes him. Why not make that fight? Their stock is high. It's an easy secondary kind of title eliminator, assuming one guy gets injured or whatever, if somebody can't fight in time. Why not? Let this guy heal up, because he got jacked up against Gaethje. He had the big swollen mouth, and make it. It sells itself. It's a pay-per-view headliner. Two exciting fighters. Either guy. If I was Eddie, why not take the fight? You feel like you could have beaten the first time. I think if you beat Dustin Poirier, you get his wins, so to speak. That's an idea. Like, when you beat a man, you get his wins. Well, get all of Dustin Poirier's wins. He's been great. So why not fight him? Get right back into the title conversation with a win on Dustin Poirier. I don't get why. I wonder if it's something as simple as Joe Silva isn't around anymore, and maybe those matches aren't as obvious because he's not there.
Yeah, that might be an issue right there. I've heard from different people that Sean Shelby's pretty difficult, man. But
really, please tell us more. We don't have to have names, but please, what have you heard?
No, it's just hard to get fights. It's hard to get him to match up fights even when fighters want to fight each other. He kind of he beats around the bush a lot. So
it makes me wonder that you say that now, because, like, for example, you see in sports where like the new age of coaches that are coming, a lot of people feel like coaches are being told more what to do by management more than ever. They just don't go with their gut. And it was very weird that Joe Silva, after the company got sold, that he felt the need to resign and step away. Why? He's been like the key guy and the key cog in making amazing fights and helping the UFC to where it is. Why would he leave now? Well, it makes me wonder. Kind of like, say, for example, Joe Girardi with the Yankees, he didn't fit the new system or what they were looking for. I wonder if Sean Shelby is less a powerful force than Joe Silva, and he's kind of getting dictated by management the fights they'd rather see, and they just want money fights. And maybe, unfortunately, they're looking at Dustin like, oh, he's not money, which is crazy because he is.
No, I don't think that that's the case at all. I mean, obviously Dustin's it's a big money fight. If whoever Dustin fights, people want to watch that. So I don't see that being the issue. I think the issue is that Sean Shelby doesn't have the I guess the pull, you should say, in some cases. Maybe I don't know. I'm not deep into the organization like that, but from what it seems is that yes, he is getting swayed by upper level people. Maybe telling him not to do something, or maybe he has to wait for the bosses to tell him what to do. But he does need to make something happen. But it takes forever. It's kind of like, what the fuck is going on? At this point. And I've had a bunch of my fighters say the same thing. But and even fighters that I know personally, not that I even work with, they all said the same thing. So it's frustrating for the fighters for sure, especially when they want to fight each other and they still don't make the fight. So I don't know, but the case isn't like that with Eddie, man. I don't think Eddie wants anything to do with Dustin. And the problem is that, we know we can beat Eddie. We know this for a fact. And that's going to be our catapult to a title shot, and we're not getting it. So now, or from what it looks like, we're not getting the opportunity to get it because, Eddie doesn't want it and Sean Shelby's not really talking about it, but you never know. It could be in the works and we just don't even know it yet. But from what I've heard is that Eddie don't want nothing to do with it.
I mean, the fact that he's made very few, if any, comments regarding it, like he's completely avoiding it and not, I understand. I'm sure he has an ego. He has his own beliefs. If you don't want,
so I think that a lot of it all. I mean, I'm not trying to be a internet tough guy by any. You know what I mean? I'm very opinionated on my fighters and their life, and Dustin is a close friend of mine, and I would like to see him get this fight back. On top of, financial reasons, this is a good fight for him as well. It can make a lot of money, and catapult his career and possibly get a title shot. So that's the type of thing that I'm talking about. It has nothing to do with Eddie personally. Now, that being said, I think maybe Eddie doesn't want to fight Dustin because maybe he wants a title shot. So if that's the case, if he's lobbying for that, or maybe even the number one contendership spot. So whoever wins out of Habib and fucking Barbosa, whoever wins out of them, then maybe he'll fight them, win that, and then he thinks that he's gonna fight for the title. So maybe he thinks that fighting Dustin is a step back, which, if you know who Dustin Poirier is, that's not a step back whatsoever, especially seeing the first fight. But in his mind, that may be the issue. Because he was coming off of a loss, I think that he thought that Dustin was an easy fight for him. And then when Dustin cracked him and rocked him, well, then he found out real quick that it wasn't an easy fight. So what people don't seem to realize is that Dustin Poirier is 10 times better than he was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
He's not a 45er anymore. He's a true 55er. He has power in his hands. He has a gas tank for days, and he's one of the best fighters in the UFC by far. Now he's also the most entertaining fighters in the UFC by far. Plus he's a likable guy, man. He does charity for his local, for his neighborhood, and does a lot of things. He's not some asshole that just wants to fight and talk shit. I mean, he loves to fight, man. And if you ever watch any of the old documentaries back in the day, what was that documentary that they did on him? Fightville. So if you ever watch that, man, you could tell from when he was a kid, this is what he was born to do. And Eddie, I feel that's something that is in him as well. I just don't know if he has the balls enough to go ahead and fight Dustin for it. But at the same time, I'm not trying to talk shit, but just make the fight, man. You know what happened in the first fight. Let's make it happen again. Let's run it back and let my dog eat. That's it.
I mean, there's not much more I can add. I think that says it all. I mean, the only thing I would ask is,
I got a little emotional.
If he doesn't get this fight, and that's a possibility because it sure seems like Eddie doesn't want to push for it. I mean, how long do you think he waits? Do you think he waits till the new year in February or January, starts asking for UFC for the next fight? How long can he wait for this and not get paid or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think. Hold on. What was the question again?
In terms of how if Eddie fight, how long can he hold out for Eddie to finally agree? I mean, is he wait till New Year, January?
He won't hold out. I mean, he's gonna fight regardless. But I mean, obviously, that's the fight we want. Yeah. But he's a fighter. He wants to fight. So I don't think he wants to fight anybody that's lower in the rankings than him. Mm-hmm. But who else is there at this point?
Yeah, that's a tough thing because it's kind of. Barboza and Habib are set up. Eddie just fought. I mean, when I was talking to a friend of mine watching the pay-per-view, I felt, Dustin versus Gaethje would be a great fight. That'd be fun, but also Gaethje just coming off a loss. So if he were to beat Gaethje, it's a good win, but it's not as good as beating somebody off of a win. So it does hurt his value in terms of demanding a title shot. So it's a weird. He's in a very weird spot. That's one. Yep. It's unfortunate because if Eddie doesn't want to take this fight and rematch it and set up like a big fight in that way, he's probably will be left. I mean, maybe someone like Kevin Lee, and that's a dangerous fight. If he were to lose this fight, it would set him back. If he wins the fight, it's a good win.
I don't see him losing to Kevin Lee whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I think that's not even a threat right there. But then again, it sounds like I'm talking shit. But
I mean, it's a solid fight though because he did fight for the title.
Stylistically, Dustin is way too technical. He's way more accurate with his punching. He has better movement. He has a better. I mean, gas tanks are probably the same. Lee does have a good gas tank, although we didn't see that primarily in the Ferguson fight because I think he had staff. So obviously that could play a big role in your gas tank and in your cardiovascular. But from that perspective, I think that even an overall game, Dustin is just better everywhere. So that's not a big issue. But the thing is, he's coming off a loss as well. So what's the, you know what I mean? You never really want to take a step back, especially now that he's on a roll. And we're almost at that cusp of a title shot. Yep. And even let's say Conor comes back, who wouldn't want to see a rematch with Conor and Dustin?
Exactly.
And not, Conor's at a heavier weight class and Dustin's at a heavier weight class. Dustin's not, like I said, Dustin has made leaps and bounds in his game since then, and we make it happen. I think that's a good fight too as well. So
I have this weird feeling Sean Shelby's listening. I think he's gonna make that Kevin Lee fight. I think it's gonna happen. I'm sorry, Dustin. I think Kevin Lee's gonna be the matchup.
That's easy money.
Well, if Kevin Lee hears that, he's not gonna not say this. So, that might start. I might have started something. Oh boy, let's move on to the next point.
Okay, don't let me talk about Kevin Lee right now.
Now the next thing we want to talk about, and we talked about this a little bit on the last FSP when Tony Ricci filled in. My boy Tony filled in for you when you were in Mother Russia. Is the whole thing about Michael Bisping taking a fight with Kelvin Gastelum in just 3 weeks' notice, and we were wondering if it's dangerous, if it's not a good idea. I mean, of course, now we see all these people coming out saying, hey, like Joe Rogan, the UFC shouldn't have let that happen. I mean, no one was saying this when the fight was made, and I think this kind of thing shows the kind of sketchiness of the UFC when it comes to making a fight, because that fight was in Shanghai. I have no idea if China really has a legitimate sports, combat sports sanctioning body like the U.S. has in every state, so they probably use their own kind of doctors and their own little sanctioning nonsense, and in a sketchy way made the fight that was going to sell and put this guy in a situation where he's only going to harm himself, and they should have really been smarter and took care of the fighter, but they didn't because they don't care. I mean, and now he's even kind of admitted that it maybe wasn't a good thing. And now, on a recent, I think his own podcast, he made the quotes. That fight was me trying to exercise some inner demons and try and get back in the win column ASAP. Bisping explained. As I said, it was a huge gamble, and for many reasons, it was the wrong move. But I don't regret it. If you look at the grand scheme of things, I can see that it was the wrong move. But at the time, it felt right, so I don't regret it. I mean, I asked Tony this. If you were in a position of you were a trainer for Michael Bisping at that time when that was a possibility to make that fight in 3 weeks' notice, would you have kind of like stepped in and be like, Mike, I don't think you should do this, man. You got rocked a little bit. I don't know if you should really be taking this fight so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you get concussed like that, and you're in a tough fight prior. I think that you need a lot of time. You need at least 2 to 3 months to recover from that fight prior. And
but can you step in as a trainer and kind of like try to dissuade them, or like even Tony said he may not go that far. Do you have to kind of just let the fighter do what they want to do and not try to overstep your bounds as one of the coaches?
I mean, you could give him your professional opinion. You can give him your as a friend to friend maybe. And a coaching to athlete perspective opinion, but the fighter's gonna do what he wants to do, to be honest. And you're gonna go with their decision and help them and prepare them accordingly, and to the best of their abilities to get them ready for the fight that they actually want. At some points, if it comes down to a factor like what you see in training leading up to the fight, it's not panning out, you may step in and be like, listen, this isn't what we're trying to do here, and it's not panning out the way we want it. Mm-hmm. You're not looking the way we need you to look going into a high-level fight like this. I think we need to, call it off or, postpone it, or one of the two. And that just comes with knowing your fighter and having a trust relationship with your fighter.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising too. I mean, again, like and that's the unfortunate thing about a fighter being so competitive and emotional. You have such a big loss, and you get an opportunity like that to come back. And plus, Michael Bisping's not getting any younger. He's getting the window's closing, so you got to take those opportunities to make money. But he seems, and all indications are, he's a very smart guy. He knows what the deal is. He gets it. So in a world where we're seeing all these new results coming out about things like CTE, the fact that he didn't let his brain rest, at all, recover at all, and in 3 weeks after, taking some serious elbows, getting put to sleep by a choke. I mean, that's where the UFC has to step in. Like, come on, how does the UFC not say, damn, this seems kind of wrong. 3 weeks. Michael, you've done so much for the company. You're like 37, 30 years old. Just take some time off. We'll find somebody else. This one event isn't really worth the damage it can do to you later in your life. Like, what are your thoughts on the fact that the UFC, like, how did the UFC let that even happen? Especially, and then it kind of resulted in, we all felt how it resulted. He got knocked silly and knocked down. It's like, man, that's not safe.
Once again, man, it's the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. I like the UFC. I mean, obviously, I work with the guys. I know the guys out there, especially at the Performance Institute. Mm-hmm. I mean, I met Dana a couple of times. He seems a nice guy. To me, he was a nice guy. But at the end of the day, it's an entertainment industry, and whatever is going to make money, whatever is going to sell tickets, they're going to let ride. So it comes down to the promotion is not gonna save anybody. It's just not going to happen unless it's like a true indication of hospitalization and causing adverse side effects to happen, and or near death type situations. That may be something that they might step in and be like, no, or the doctors may step in and say something. But at the end of the day, if it's right on that line, and it's a maybe possibility, and it's going to make some money for them, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? So you got to think of it like that. And you have to be more responsible as a fighter, and he knows it, but he's a fighter, man. And that's, I hate to say it, man, but I've almost done the same things when I was fighting back then. And it's like, when you get a loss and you get a bad loss like that, and you lose your title and you lose everything that you gained, it sticks with you, and you want to you want to get it back really quickly. The problem is that you may not be ready to get it back really quickly. So you have to kind of take a step back, understand your issues, understand where you went wrong in the fight, and then fix that problem, not try to eliminate what happened in the past by jumping right back into it. You're not ready. And a lot of fighters do that. A lot of athletes do that, not even just fighters. So even when I was playing football, and I know a lot of my high school kids, when they lose a game, man, they just want to get back right on the field and work at it. And that's a sign of a true champion. It's a sign of a true winner. But at the same time, it may not be the smartest thing to do.
Now, the next thing we want to talk about, it has to do with the same division that there's rumors of, not even rumors, it looks like it's going to be Robert Whittaker versus Luke Rockhold at UFC 221. First opinions on that fight and the matchup, and who do you think will win? I think it's a fantastic matchup. It's a fun fight.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, Whittaker is he's a stud, man. Like watching him fight and watching the way he moves and things like that, I think that he has a good opportunity to reign for a long time, and especially because he's young and he's getting better each time and each fight. So I mean, he's an exciting guy. He's from Australia. He's got that accent and shit, so it's kind of cool.
You like the accent that does it for you?
I like the accent, man. I'm thinking about. Listen, if you're from Australia and you want me to come out there and do some seminars,
I meant that. Nothing against Russia, but visiting Australia for a couple weeks now, that's some seminars, baby.
I will teach you guys a lot of my methodologies, man. Hey, man, especially I'll go down under, whatever how they say. Give me an accent. Give me an accent. Give me an accent, Jason. Shit, I can't do it.
I haven't practiced my Australian, so I don't want to be too terrible. I can't do it.
But yeah, man. So I mean, he's a tough guy and he's very talented. You know, and Luke, we have a mutual friend that trains Luke, obviously.
Yep.
You know, he's out there sometimes. I think he goes back and forth from AKA to Henry Hoof's gym. But you know, at the end of the day, I don't think. I think he's on a roll, man. I think Whittaker's on a roll. I don't think nobody's really going to stop him. But man, Luke Rockhold is a beast.
Yeah,
he is. You know, so it's an interesting fight, and it'll be an exciting fight for sure.
And I like it too because it's Rockhold is very athletic. He's not as fast as Robert Whittaker, but it's interesting that I was looking up. He's got a 3-inch height advantage. He has, I believe, a 4-inch reach advantage. He uses his leg kicks well to keep range for the most part. I mean, yeah, I'm fascinated by that. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, yeah, Robert Whittaker is got to be the favorite. He's been so good. I think the world finally knows you can't sleep on him anymore. This guy's one of the best fighters in the world. But it's fun. I mean, it's just a fun, exciting. It's going to be a stand-up fight. Two very different kind of styles. Robert Whittaker has like a classic traditional kickboxer. Luke Rockhold is like a kickboxer, but he throws very unorthodox strikes. He's got a lot of options, a lot of tools in his tool belt. And I'm also curious too because he can wrestle a little bit. Luke Rockhold is very good grappler, very underrated. A lot of his early wins in Strikeforce were grappling, submission. You know, he's a much more total package than he shows off because his striking has become so damn good. But I will wonder if he would try to mix up and maybe being the bigger guy, try to get Robert Whittaker down or maybe mix it up and have Robert Whittaker think. So I look forward to that fight more than a lot of fights in that division. So I think it's a fun test for Robert Whittaker to see where it goes. And speaking of Luke Rockhold, he was on the MMA Hour this weekend. He made some comments I thought were really, really good, really hit to the core. He was trying to talk about that. Maybe someone like Dana White is too much in the forefront of the marketing of the company and not enough of the fighters. And I think that's fairly true. I mean, we do see Dana White a lot. You don't see the head or the figurehead or the president of a company as much in other sports as you do Dana White. You don't see Vince McMahon this much unless he's like playing a storyline on the show and fighting somebody. You don't see Roger Goodell this much. You don't see, Adam Silver this much in the NBA. Like, you see Dana White a lot. And going to Luke Rockhold's quote, he said, "No offense, but your investment is into Dana White," Rockhold continued. "Dana White is not selling pay-per-views. Dana White looking for a fight. Dana White contender series. Invest in the fighters, and you'll solve your problems. You'll hit your marks. You'll sell your pay-per-views. You'll do your thing. Get it straight." And I think that's dead on. Like,
hold on.
Yeah.
listen, it's not like he doesn't invest in. I'm not trying to defend Dana White by any means, but
Yes, you are. Just defend Dana White.
hey, man, I like Dana, man. He's cool with me, you know. And like I said, they do invest in the fighters because look what they have for them now. What are they developing over there at the UFC Performance Institute? I don't think people understand, but if you go and take a look inside there, it's like a it's a true fighters like playground, and it's something that's going to be even more created and more developed throughout the years. And then we're still breaking in to the mainstream. It's still a little bit underground from a lot of people. Like, still people think that MMA, like, people are like, oh, you do UFC? Like, no, motherfucker. Like, there's not just the UFC. You know what I'm saying? But people still like the mainstream and like, the general public that doesn't really know about the sport. It's getting there. It's not there yet to like the level of the NFL and the MLB and things like that. So you got to give it some time, man. It's a growing sport, but guys are making way more money than they did 10 years ago. Trust me, you can ask Dean Thomas about that shit, and at the rate that it's gonna keep going up, but people and fighters, and I hate to say this because I'm more of a fighters coach and I want to be on the side of my fighters, but at the same time, you got to be patient, man. You got to grow with the sport and know that it's coming, that payday's coming. You just got to be patient and let them build that sport up and build that entertainment up, because that's where they're trying to go from a business plan. Let the business plan play itself out. Dana is in the face of the media because the media wants to see Dana because Dana is controversial. Dana isn't like a regular CEO. He's not like, Roger Goodell or some shit like that. Like, he's brass. He says what he says what he feels. He wears his heart on his sleeve and fucking makes it happen. And to be honest, he's grown the sport, man. You got to give him respect, because at the end of the day, when they took the sport over, it was nothing. It was actually on the downslope. So he's built this sport up to where it's at, and now he's he's like a multi-billionaire. Give him some respect from that perspective. But yes, fighters in general do need to be taken care of, but you have to look into the context of where the sport is going, and you have to grow with the sport and be patient.
I agree with some of those points, and I don't agree with the other points. Like, I get it. You're right. The center there, the making, that's great. But I think Luke means more of in a promotional way, in that, why isn't there Tony Ferguson looking for a fight? Why isn't there Demetrius Johnson Contender Series? Like, why does Dana White, the owner, need a TV show? Like, if you want to do the interviews, okay, fine, he's got to promote the event, but does Dana White need a TV show on Fight Pass? Like, wouldn't that be the perfect vehicle for, like, a fighter? Like, shouldn't we help? Why not have Daniel Cormier looking for a fighter, or further push them, making them start? Dana White TV show? Why?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Dana White's a promoter. So why would a fighter look for another fighter?
But Dana White's not fighting. Like, I'm not paying to watch Dana White. I'm paying to watch the fighters, though, I think that's what he's saying. Like, people want to know. I mean, if you want to pay for, you want your product to grow, you want something to grow, and you want something to pay for as a customer. You want to have a connection with a fighter and like him and want to watch him or her fight. Unless Dana White is getting his ass in there and fighting, like, I don't really like. I get it's funny, and if it was on the larger scale of, and they did shows for a lot of other fighters, and fighters had all these other opportunities and other kind of things, I get it. But he really is front and center. I mean, he's in there when they're getting the belt. He's in there, why not take? Why? I think he enjoys being front and center, and they know him, and I get it. He's popular, but shouldn't, as a promoter, you maybe want to take a step back and have the other people, the fighters especially, because they are the product. You're not the product. They're the product. Be more out there in the face, pushing them in front of the camera and all these things more often than him.
Yeah, I mean, that's an approach that Coker is doing with Bellator.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
there you go. Exactly. Like, we really don't know Scott Coker other than when he pops up here and there. We know the Bellator fighters more than him.
No, I hear you. It's that's a good case to have. I mean, I think that that's something that he does need to develop his story or develop his entertainment business around the fighters for sure. But at the end of the day, who's gonna stop him really? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
and I'm sure his bosses want him to be there. But I mean, I doubt you would mind if they had Dustin Poirier looking for a fight. Like, if they had
Well,
the Dustin
listen,
Poirier charity tour, or looking for a charity, that would be amazing. Why aren't they doing that? They should do that. Dustin Poirier finding the next New Orleans charity he wants to have his fight gear go to. That would be a pretty cool show.
if you think about it, it would be a good show because he's a fighter doing his thing. But
And then he could have you like this guy has Sarah and Dean Thomas. He could have you and like Matt Brown or somebody, one of these other coaches or somebody. Look at that. You would be on a TV show. Dustin
Matt
Poirier looking
Brown,
for a charity. Call somebody, please get this show made.
I hear you. I hear you. No doubt.
All right, now moving on from that, another fight that's on the way, and this one I'm freaking excited about, especially because he's going to be on 220 with Daniel Cormier versus Volkan Ozdemir, so it's a double header of title fights. For UFC 220, it's been announced Stipe Miocic versus the Boogie Man, not to take away from the Boogie Woman and Joanna Jacek, the Boogie Man right now, it seems like, of MMA, and Francis Ngannou, who seems like a scary monster. First opinions and thoughts of that matchup.
Oh man. To be honest, at the beginning of it, I didn't know who Francis was, man. But all I know now is that motherfucker can knock somebody's head clean off. Yeah, man. I like to see. I think he's gonna be the champ. To be honest with you, I like Miocic, but I think he's definitely gonna be the champ. And I see him knocking him out too. To be honest with you, I think it'll be either in the first or the second round for sure.
I think he definitely has everything it takes to knock Stipe on. Stipe has been had before. Like, he lost this. This is crazy to me to think about that. He's lost to Stefan Struve a very long time ago, and I believe he was finished. I mean, he can be hurt. He was hurt against Alistair, but he came back. But I'm really, really surprised. I really feel like a lot of people, fans and even pundits, and even it seems like Vegas is really sleeping on this dude, because early numbers are having, I believe, Ngannou as the betting favorite, which is crazy for a guy who just recently tied the title defense record for heavyweight, which is crazy. That's only 2. That's how nuts that division is, and things can change so quickly, and everybody hits hard. That 2 title defenses is the record. But he tied it. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. He has wins on against Alistair, Junior Dos Santos, a lot of really good fighters. He can box. He can wrestle. He has a good chin. Yeah, he can get hurt, but he still doesn't get finished. He has a good chin for a division that's, dangerous. I'm surprised that Ngannou would be the favorite. I mean, Ngannou has very good wins, but his wrestling hasn't been tested. To go in there against a guy with a good chin like a Stipe is going to be interesting. He hasn't been pushed for multiple rounds. I'm just surprised that so many people are overlooking this guy as a champ. I guess because he doesn't go out there and sell himself, and he's a nice guy, he's a fireman and all this stuff, and people kind of underestimate him, but that kind of blows me away a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I was just answering a text from Todd Duffy as he's talking about some mace swinging because he's fucking crazy. Todd, you're gonna have to hold on, man. I'm doing a
podcast. now, well, let's talk about guys you do know that I'm sure you get texts from time to time. Next weekend, I believe Santiago Ponzinibbio is going against Mike Perry in an exciting, super cool fight. I mean, it's on the same card as Lawler versus Dos Anjos, which blows my mind that a dude that fought for a long time at 185 is fighting a dude that fought for a long time at 155, but whatever. I mean, Ponzinibbio versus Perry. I mean, this is like it feels like a number 2 contenders eliminator. Like, they're probably not title shot quite yet, but they are getting right there, and whoever loses this is really going to fall back a little bit, and whoever wins is really going to start making a claim for a possible title shot. You know what this could be? This really could be, and let's see if you agree, I think this could be the Colby Covington Invitational. I think the winner would be rewarded with Colby Covington.
Nah, I don't think that'll happen.
No, I mean they don't seem to want to give Colby a title shot. I don't know who else they're gonna make him fight. I think this was who he's gonna get.
Yeah, it's a good assumption. I think that may happen. True, but it'll be a weird one because obviously, like Santiago and both are both cool. They're friends, So it'll be interesting to say the least because I know that Santiago and I like Mike Perry. I've known Mike Perry. We've cross trained together before. He was a student at Dean School, But I don't.
How gangster is Mike Perry? He seems pretty gangster.
He's a good kid, man. He's not a gangster.
He seems pretty. He seems like the kind of guy that it won't take much for him to throw some hands at you.
I think he definitely came from, rough past and maybe a tough neighborhood, but.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like a criminal, Or,
I don't mean like that. Yeah.
Relax, bro. He's talented, and he can punch, obviously, but so can Santiago. We've seen that as well. And I think Santiago has a better, well-rounded game, for sure, by far. And I think that it's just a matter of time before that's a win under Santiago's belt again, and then we possibly get a title shot there. But we'll see.
I mean, so if you see Mike Perry, I mean, what's he gonna say? Considering that you have gone out and said he's gonna lose.
Well, he's gotta take that. Are you trying to set up a fight between me and Mike Perry now?
I'm curious. Your friends. How does a personality in MMA deal with that? Like. It's all good. Oh, you didn't want to. It seems like most guys get butthurt if people they know don't pick them. So how does one handle that?
I mean, I don't know him that closely. Like,
okay. So it's not that bad.
I mean, yeah. He's actually fought some of my teammates in the amateurs. So, and I was actually cornering my teammate when he fought him. So, I mean, it's not nothing like that. But I respect him as a fighter, obviously, and I like the way he fights, and I like the way he carries himself. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah,
it's cool, and that's the way he wants to roll, and that's awesome. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, from a skills perspective, and I work with guys that have way higher skill capacity, and Mike's still young in the game too. Don't get me wrong; he has room to grow. But at this point in time, Santiago is just better.
What makes Santiago unique in your training with him and the time you've been there? What makes him better, special than the normal fighter at the weight class?
And let me tell you, he really does have some power, bro. Like watching him spar and move around, it's like you don't think it because he doesn't look it to an extent. But man, he definitely has knockout power, and he's very hardworking and he's smart too. Which is, it's almost like you never see that. You either see somebody who just like kind of like he's smart, but he's a little too smart for himself, and he doesn't want to go as hard as he should. Or you got the guys that just go hard all the time and aren't really thinking about the long haul, where he kind of puts it all together. And he's always asking questions. He's always trying to learn, and which is a good thing when you have an athlete or a fighter like that wants to learn and wants to understand why they're doing certain movements and certain techniques and modalities, and understand the full process of the program. It's a good thing, man, because that they are really fully invested in their career, and they're doing it the most intelligent way possible by also working hard and diligently. So, I mean, he has those aspects. We're also working that cognitive conditioning with him with Nick, and he's also working hand in hand with Marcia Casey too right now.
Those sparring sessions have to be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's American Top Team. We have full all talent on the mats at all times, so he's getting good work regardless. And I mean, he's working with Pitbull. He's working with, like I said, he's working with Mark. He's working with Dustin. He's working with a bunch of guys. I mean, Dustin's not there right now, but usually he gets work with him as well. And he's also, I think he's worked with Kobe, and he's worked with a bunch of other guys. So you got to think, man, with the amount of talent we have over there, he's constantly fighting on a daily basis with the highest level of fighters in this area, or actually in the world, to be honest. We pull from all different sides of the world. So, you know, we got guys from Russia, we got guys from Poland, we got guys from Japan, we got guys from Korea. Everybody's coming out to American Top Team to get that experience, to get that, you know, that sparring, to get, you know, the coaching, to get all the aspects of what we have there in that little, you know, I wouldn't say little, in that 40,000 square foot facility. You know, not to boast or brag about my team, but I feel like
just do boast. Get it, go ahead, do it.
That is what it is, man. But you know, from that perspective, yeah, like getting back to the question, I think that Santiago definitely is. He's a smart fighter, but he also is a hard worker, and from a physical aspect, he just punches like no other. You know, I think that. And with that being said, you got two punchers going at it. It's an exciting fight. You know, whoever really lands the first shot, the first big shot, will definitely end it. But we'll see. It might be a takedown to a submission. You know?
And both of them I like about them, they have a killer instinct style. When they get you hurt, you're in trouble. Like, you're probably not going to get off the hook with these kind of guys. They just go in there and finish. And I mean, I'm excited about the fight. To me, it's like, it's close. It's like it's a pick 'em. I think a lot of fans are probably going to pick Perry because he's just not the flavor of the month, nothing like that, but he's become very popular right now because of his look, his style, his brashness, you know, what he says in the mic. While Ponzinibbio is pretty, you know, handles himself like a professional, more chill, more relaxed. He's wild and fun in the fight, but, you know, not the shining star social media, you know, personality Mike Perry. So I think people are probably going to sleep in on Ponzinibbio. Hopefully what they're hearing from you makes them go, whoa, you know, this guy may be the favorite in this. He might be the guy that beat Mike Perry. But going on to our last point, well, you know, I want to talk a little bit about Jose Aldo. He lost to Max Holloway for the second time in a row this past weekend. Again, TKO in the third round. I'm curious, like, where he goes from here. I really, for me, I think I wish he would retire, but it's crazy to say that. He's 26-4 now, that I wish he retired, because I don't feel like his fire is truly there. I mean, the guy keeps talking about wanting to get into boxing and do these other things. Like, I don't know, like, when you've had such success right away in such a young age, because he's only 31, there should be no reason that he should be retiring, but I think he's done enough, and I don't know how seriously he's into that grind every day. Because now he's going to have to rebuild himself up. He's probably going to have to win 3-4 fights, I would think, to maybe get a title shot again. Like, it doesn't seem like it's worth for him. I don't know if he's that diehard. I mean, the guy's one of the greatest fighters at all time. It's crazy that he lost his 8th fight, and he damn near went undefeated for almost 10 years until losing to Conor. I mean, what do you think he should go from here?
Who did he lose to in his 8th fight?
What happened?
Who did he lose to in his 8th fight?
He lost to, wow, we got to go back. He lost at Jungle Fight 5 to Luciano Acevedo.
Damn, that's a long time ago.
Yes. November 26, 2006. 2005, excuse me. I mean, that's going to be a trivia question. Who did Jose Aldo lose to in his first fight? But I mean, you know, what do you...
Yeah, I remember seeing that. It was like in a ring and shit. He had like board shorts on, like, looked like he just got out of the ocean.
Probably. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, all that.
I mean, what do you think he should fight on? I mean, should he ponder retirement? No. I can't see him going to fight like, you know, other guys and working his way up at this point.
Nah, man, I think he needs to hang it up, man. Otherwise, he's probably going to get a little bit. He's probably going to get injured for sure, and it's going to be almost damn near life threatening, you know. So, there comes a time in this sport where, it always happens, man. People want to hang on further than they're supposed to, and if he can come to grips with, you know, this isn't, you know, his way anymore. This isn't what is, you know, set for him. He can do other things, you know what I mean? But if he keeps on going, it could be a problem. And he even might win a couple fights if he stays and he wins a couple fights, but it could be that one other fight that he, you know, gets cracked and has permanent brain damage. You know, and trust me, I know about this, you know, 8 concussions later, and I can actually speak on this, you know, this topic. So...
Yeah, I mean, and his body has been saying to him, it's almost the end, a long time ago. I mean, In 2012, he only had one fight. In 2015, one fight. In 2016, one fight. I mean, he actually had 2 fights this year, which is the first time he's had 2 fights in a year since 2014. I mean, his body has had issues staying healthy. Overall, what do you say about his legacy at this, 2064? To me, I think easy. He's top 10 greatest fighters of all time. I know they're just blowing big time. Max Holloway calling him the best 145er ever already, which is fine, I guess. I mean, he even said, "Settle down. I got more stuff to do before we get to that." But I mean, I think this Jose Aldo, until Max Holloway changes that, is the best 145 ever, top 10 fighter of all time.
Yeah, he's definitely a legend. You know what I mean? He's held the title for such a long time, like you said, and he was dominating, in the earlier part of his career, especially back in the WEC days, But yeah, there's no tarnishment of his legacy whatsoever. I think that it just comes down to a health factor now at this point. So I would say that definitely, his legacy is intact. He's not going anywhere with that. And he should be in the Hall of Fame in the UFC for sure. So that's not the issue. And if he thinks that that's the issue, then somebody has to tell him something, because that's not it at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all our points, all we want to talk about today. But I know you want to talk a little bit about ACB a bit.
I mean, ACB is a Russian-based combat sport promotion. Absolute Championship Berkut is it's an up-and-coming promotion, but they seem to be doing everything right now. They're definitely paying the fighters. It's a good, entertaining promotion. There's a lot of great fighters on that card. I mean, a lot of up-and-coming talent. So if you ever want to check out some fights other than the UFC and Bellator, definitely check out ACB. I think you can find them. It's kind of hard to find them. I don't know if they're on Fight Pass or they're not on Fight Pass. I'm not sure, but definitely go onto their website, acb.com, and check them out and see when their next fights are, because I think they have a fight. They do have a fight in Moscow on the 22nd or the 23rd, I believe. And I have 5 guys, actually 6 guys that I trained at Berkut out in Chechnya that are on that card, and 3 of those guys are all fighting for titles or defending their title. So very good set of fighters out there, good up-and-coming promotion. If you guys want to check, other fights out other than obviously Bellator and UFC, check out ACB. It's a great promotion. I fully can attest to it.
Yeah, I mean, I see on their website, it's acbmma.com. It's the English version. They have a show ACB 76 on December 9th in Queensland. They got 77. Maybe that's one you talk about on the 23rd, but that one's in Russian, so I don't know what they're saying. But I mean, I keep on hearing about ACB. I keep on hearing about a lot of good fighters, a lot of name fighters that maybe been across, been in the UFC, maybe been in Strikeforce, or Bellator. They're going over there and fighting. There's a lot of money in Russia. There's some big money to go over there. I mean, Jeff Munson of all people, he knows about that big money in Russia. There's opportunity out there, and that's what's so good about the sport. It's not just the UFC and Bellator. There is opportunity out there. I mean, ONE FC is another one. There's ACB is another one. And it's great to see. It's and that's where UFC deserves a ton of credit. Not only they've built themselves up, but they've helped the sport overall, because everybody has found the love for MMA, and maybe they can't afford a UFC pay-per-view or tickets, so they're going for the local things or the regional things, and other companies are coming up. I mean, there's another one. Oh man, I forgot. Oh, a KSW in Poland. That's another company that's coming up real fast. Got real popular. I'm sure Joanna, can attest to that. So, I mean, it's good to see these promotions like an ACB MMA, and as you can talk to this. There's some tough sumbitches in Russia. So no doubt, there's some tough sumbitches in ACB.
Oh, for sure, man. They're all tough, and they're good fights, man. You know what I'm saying? I think. Even there's some U.S. guys, and we got guys at American Top Team that fight for ACB as well. And they're all they rave about that promotion. So I mean, it's a good promotion, and all the other promotions over there overseas. You got to give them some love, man, and actually really start to pay attention, because those are where the future lies. You know, where you're gonna see these guys in the UFC or in Bellator and watch them and, you know, get their autograph and buy the pay-per-views and things like that. So it's always good to check it out, because shit, Conor came from somewhere. You know, he came from King of the Cage and all those other promotions over there. So I mean, give these promotions some love and watch them.
Nah, that's it for us in this FSP this week. Phil, give them the socials so they can know when to check you out, and they can even, speaking of ACB, they can see some of the work you did recently in ACB in Burgos in Grozny, some of the Snapchats and the Instagram videos you have.
Oh yeah, so I mean, my Instagram is Daru Strong, DARUSTRONG. Twitter's the same thing. I have a Snapchat that I show all my videos on. It's kind of like basically from start to finish, so you can actually see the whole entire training session almost on my Snapchat, which is Daru Strong 1, the letter or the number 1. And then after that, if you ever want to get any type of online training, virtual coaching, I do that as well. If you're overseas, anything like that, I do also offer online coaching, and I also give out templates for programs. If you need to get a hold of me, just email me, phil@darustrong.com. Also, for seminar requests, go ahead and do the same. You can email me or you can DM me on Instagram, and we'll get it going.
What is a virtual training like? Like, how do I press a button and I see a video of you and you like point to me and for motivation and tell like what is the virtual like?
Maybe down the line, maybe we'll do like an app where I'll actually physically be able to watch you, or you can hear my voice screaming at you to keep going.
Like the VR, like the PlayStation VR, we can get like a virtual Daru training session. You can scare the hell out of some people.
Yeah, right. I'll be in there waking you up on an alarm clock.
Well, as you guys all know, follow the show, Fight Strength Podcast on Facebook, Fight Strength _ on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram, Jericho Vendetta, or on Twitter. On Instagram is Jericho Vendetta. On Twitter, Cheap Seats Chat. Remember, you can listen to all the FSP and especially the Fight Strength podcast episodes on iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, YouTube. Thank you also, big thank you to Break a Muscle for putting our strength and conditioning related and theme specific episodes. There's a new one up there now for you folks if you're listening. We have an all Ask Daru episode where Phil asks a ton of questions and I get to interview him and talk to him about the Russia trip. So if you want to learn more about Phil's Russia trip, go look up Breaking Muscle and our episode there, or on all those sources and streaming services we just talked about. So that is it. Catch you next time. I am Jason Burgos. He is Phil Daru. Bye-bye.
Peace.